I am so excited you're here. I mean, I am very, 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 very excited. I'm excited times a million you're here for some spooky book recommendations and Halloweekend readathon recommendations. If you guys don't know what Halloweekend is, it is a readathon that was created by Lexi from Books with Lexi, and it takes place on every weekend in October, Thursday through Sunday. There are prompts, there's going to be reading sprints, there's going to be events hosted by the co-host. So yeah, very, very exciting stuff happening in this readathon. It is just like a time to celebrate being a horror reader, I feel like, and hanging out with each other, talking about spooky books, doing some spooky things. So yeah, I'm super, super excited. There is some awesome merch available as well, as you can see from my sweatshirt. It is so, so cute. And Lexi designed this, and each little symbol here, or little spooky thing, represents one of the co-hosts. So can you guess which one represents me? Should I tell you? Or will you guess in the comments? I can let you know in the comments which one represents me. But hint, it is towards the bottom of the crew neck. But the link for merch will be down below as well. I don't know if it will come in time, but hey, I think this is cute all year, for sure. Definitely going into winter too, to have a cute little crew neck like this. So, so cute. And there's bookmarks and stuff too that Lexi made, and everything is just adorable. So definitely go check it out. And speaking of my co-host, this year, Sav from Riveting Reads will be returning for Halloweekend, and we will be joined by Kelsey and Kaylee as well. Kelsey from Slime and Slashers and Kaylee from Kaylee's Books. So I am so, so excited. We have so much fun stuff planned for you guys. Like, it is going to be a blast. And the prompts are super easy and fun as well. And yeah, there's some prompts that I can't give recommendations for, like read a book that scares you or something that scares you. Like, I can't recommend that because that's tough. I don't know what scares everybody. I'm not a mind reader. And then also, like, read a new to you author and stuff. But yeah, all the books I'm going to recommend will work for Halloweekend. And yeah, I'm just so excited for it. It is going to be the spookiest, funnest time ever. Probably ever on the earth. Anyway, so let's get right into the recommendations. So starting off with some Victor LaValle books. I love Victor LaValle so much. So we have The Changeling by Victor LaValle. There's actually a TV show of this on Apple TV, and I really want to watch it because this book is wild. This book, I would say, starts off as like a grief horror book and turns into like a dark fantasy. So it's really disturbing at the beginning, and then it all the way through it has like those spooky Halloween vibes. There's a literal scene in this where he's in a graveyard, like the spookiest freaking graveyard in the world, and it's great. But this is about a man whose wife, their baby, you know, and it's messed up, and she goes missing, and he's like trying to find her. So yeah, this is pretty heavy at the beginning, but it is a wild ride. And then there's The Ballad of Black Tom, and this is a retelling of the story of Red Hook that was originally written by H.P. Lovecraft. And yeah, this is such a fun retelling. We follow Tom, who is I guess a busker, like a guitarist, and he's paid to actually deliver a book to a part in Queens, and some stuff goes down. That's how I'm going to say it, because it is a novella. It's very weird, and this actually will work for my the co-host favorite trope. Without giving too much away, this one will totally work. The next book I'm going to recommend, I don't own yet. I really want it one day, and that is Usher's Passing by Robert R. McCammon. This is kind of a retelling, I guess, of The Fall of the House of Usher. I mean, it's not, it's kind of based, it takes that and then like tells its own story, and yeah, this would totally work for like spooky or Halloween cover, and yeah, with the pumpkin, there is like a pumpkin man in this, you guys. It is a very atmospheric, very fall, very spooky. There's some family drama in it. It just has all the things, and I loved it. You know, I loved this book last year when I read it, and yeah, definitely check this out and let me know what you think about the Pumpkin Man. So you guys know I was going to be recommending this one for spooky season, and that is Mayfly by C.J. Liddy. This is a new release, and this was actually a debut novel as well, which I don't think I knew until like way after the fact. But anyways, this is about a female American Psycho who works at Disney World or Disneyland as the Ice Princess or whatever from Frozen, but it doesn't say that, but you get hints that it's Frozen. Anyways, there's lots of like LA vibes in this, which I thought was really cool, and there's also a ton of Halloween stuff in this. There's Halloween music, there's Halloween movies, like references and stuff like that, and Maeve loves Halloween, and you even get some decorating tips from her in this book. So yeah, lots of fun. There is a little bit of a romance in this that I was nervous about, but it doesn't take away from the story, I feel like. But yeah, definitely worth checking out. And look at this cover. This cover definitely has like a Halloween thing going on, right? With this eyeball and the black, like, just, you know, just read it because of the cover. The next book I'm going to recommend is Curse of the Reaper by Brian McCauley. This is a slasher, but it's more of like a psychological slasher. This is about a man who is kind of, I don't want to say washed up, maybe? I was like, I don't want to say washed up, but yes, he's washed up. He's doing like conventions and stuff. He used to play like a Friday the 13th, like a Jason character in this series of films called, is it the Reaper, Night of the Reaper franchise. So he is kind of on his way out. They're rebooting it, and they hire somebody else for this role. So that's pretty much all I'm going to say. What is so fun about this and so spooky and like almost cozy, I feel like, because it's funny, is that we get snippets of the actual movies throughout. Like each movie you get a part of the screenplay, and if you're a slasher fan or any like horror fan, I feel like you're gonna love it. You're gonna love these little fragments from those movies, and you're gonna be like, I would totally watch this movie. It sounds amazing. So the next book I'm gonna recommend is one of my favorite horror books of all times. That is The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker. I absolutely love this book. I love the movie that he directed. He never directed a movie before. He read a book about directing and directed it. Like, hello, like, amazing. So if you guys don't know what this is about, it's about, I guess, people seeking pleasure through a puzzle box. No, they get this puzzle box and they're told, like, you will get all of your stuff fulfilled if you can open it. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about this. I love this book. It doesn't actually have Pinhead in it. It has another Cenobite called the Engineer, and she is badass. Her entrance, amazing. My favorite freaking entrance in a monster entrance in like any book ever. But yeah, Hellbound Heart. It is short, it is sweet. You can read it for Halloweekend. It's amazing. The next book is one of the scariest books I've ever read. That is Pen Pal by Dathan Aberbach. This book is so unsettling. It's unnerving. It made me think somebody was literally like watching me with binoculars or something, like from my window. I'm like pointing at my window like you can see it. Very, very unsettling. This is, I want to say it's a coming of age horror, because it is this guy, he's reflecting back on creepy incidences that happened to him as a child. This was actually a creepypasta at first and turned into a book, and yeah, it is, it's very, very unsettling. There's certain chapters in this, like I literally have goosebumps thinking about it, where I usually read in the dark, right, at night, especially physical books, mostly. I had to turn on every light in my apartment. So I had to recommend a King book for this, The King of Horror, and I honestly had a tough time recommending a book because I wanted to recommend something that you can like easily get into King if you haven't read a Stephen King book before, and that was tough. That was a tough thing to just choose one, but I chose Pet Sematary by Stephen King. I think this has all of the autumnal feels in this. This takes place, I believe, at the beginning of fall, and then it goes into like Thanksgiving and stuff. And yeah, it is a super sad grief horror, but I really think the conversations in this are so good, especially between the wife and Lewis. I always forget all the names of everybody, but like the wife and even like the neighbor to Ed Gwynn. I always think of Ed Gwynn from the movie. But yeah, there's some really great conversations here about death in general. So it does focus on grief a lot, but it's also like other stuff, other conversations happening. And there's also like a skeptic trope in this, which I love. A skeptic trope, I love it. And I love when Zed Skeptic, you know, realizes some stuff. That's one of my favorite things. And also just a lot of creepy imagery in this. The book is a little different than the 1989 movie. And yeah, I love the 1989 movie as well. But yeah, highly recommend Pet Sematary. If you haven't read it, it is time to read it. You guys probably knew I was going to recommend this book as well, because it's one of my favorite reads of this year, and that was episode 13 by Craig DeLuey. With this one, I highly recommend the audiobook because it is full cast and it is a like full production. There's sound effects, there's music and singing and like all of the stuff. But this takes place in Virginia, I believe, in a notorious haunted house in Virginia, and it is like a ghost show, people going there to document stuff, and you know, they find something, because like look at the size of the book, you know, they find something. For the length of the book, I think it definitely flew by while I was listening to it. I absolutely loved this book. This book scared the crap out of me. And the ending of this book is super, super good. It's one of my favorite tropes, so you can use this for a Halloweekend as well. I don't know if I've talked about this book recently on my channel because I got it forever ago, and that is Night Shoot by David Sodergren. This was my gateway into David Sodergren. All of his books are on KU, and all of them would work for Halloweekend, honestly. Maggie's Grave is one of my favorites. I just read Dead Girl Blues, which is a bummer of a slasher, but it's so good. And Forgotten Island, which is more of a summer horror. But yeah, he has a ton of books. The Har is amazing. It would totally work for like spooky season as well, and it's a bit of a love story that I absolutely love. But yeah, Sodergren books are so fun, and you fly through them. I feel like they read really fast. But I think Night Shoot is like the most Halloween-y out of his books so far, because he's always coming out with new ones. So Night Shoot, as you can tell by the cover, is it looks like it's gonna be a spooky house book. Yeah, it is. It does lean, I think this leans more into extreme horror, with the gore. This is about a camera crew, like a film crew going in to shoot like a low budget film into a Crawford manor that is, you know, notorious, I guess, with certain stuff happening there. And almost all of the characters are horrible in this, and David Sodergren does a great job of making horrible characters, and then you like kind of clapping when they die. So that is a lot of fun. But yeah, definitely check out any Sodergren books for spooky season. The next book I'm gonna recommend is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. It is a classic. I absolutely love this book. This book is about Eleanor, who has spent most of her life taking care of her ailing mother. Her mother dies, and so she is takes this opportunity to be a part of a sleep study that takes place in Hill House, and she steals her sister's car and she goes. She goes to Hill House, and yeah, Hill House is super haunted, but it's also beautiful at the same time. So yeah, I love this book. It's so creepy, it's so eerie, and every time I reread it, I definitely have a different takeaway. My takeaway as of right now from my most recent reread, which was back in May, is that Eleanor is actually the villain in the story. The next book I'm going to recommend is The Good House by Tiana Anna-Reeve-Du. This is a super haunted house story. This is king level haunted house stuff happening in this story. I wasn't expecting this story to get so big as it does. It starts out as grief horror. The main character in this story lost her son in this house, and she ends up going back to the town and the house and kind of discovering like a whole history with the good house. This book is so unsettling. There's just like straight up like really spooky parts, right? Like there's unexpected, like where those footprints come from, you know, like stuff like that happening in this, and you're like, oh no. So yeah, very, very creepy, a bit of a slow burn, but I think it's like a build up of stuff, and yeah, it's fantastic. And yeah, I would say it's definitely king level horror happening in this. Next book is another grief horror book. I feel like a lot of these are grief horror books, and that is Crossroads by Laurel Hightower. This is a Halloween spooky book, but this is about a mother grieving, and she lost her son in a car accident, and she goes to visit his the little cross like on the side of the road they do for car accidents, and she ends up cutting herself and bleeding on the grave, and something ends up happening that night. That's pretty much all I'm going to say about this one. It is super spooky and unsettling, and also devastating and heartbreaking, and you really feel this main character's grief come through, and to do that in like a novella is amazing. And also the freaking ending of this, it's my favorite. It is my favorite ending. Almost, I would say it's in my top 10 endings of like all time, and it is also one of my favorite tropes. The last two books I'm going to recommend are some Grady Hendrix books, but honestly, any Grady Hendrix book will work for Halloweekend or spooky season, I think. How to Sell a Haunted House is like my most recent Grady Hendrix this year, and I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars. This felt like a very emotional homage to Paperbacks from Hell, actually. If you don't know, Grady Hendrix wrote Paperbacks with Hell with Will Erickson, which is his nonfiction book, and it's like a whole love letter to Paperbacks from Hell. And yeah, this felt very much of a homage to that. And yeah, I can't say too much about it. Just know it is a grief horror book. It is about a woman who lost her parents, who has to go back home and kind of reconnect with her estranged brother. This book hit close to home for me. Not in a way you expect, though. I'll say that. It's not what you expect, why it hit close to home for me. So the other Hendrix books was Final Girl Support Group. I love this book as How to Sell a Haunted House is a homage to Paperbacks from Hell. This is like his homage and love letter to final girls in the slasher franchises like Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Nightmare on Elm Street. There's some other ones too I'm not going to say because they are I feel like they're deep dives. I wouldn't say they're like deep dives, but you know, if you're not a huge slasher fan, you might not like this, but I feel like he made it accessible for everybody to kind of just read like a good action. I feel like a lot of this is action, and then you get into the horror, which I thought was done so well. It felt very cinematic. I really liked the main character a lot in this, and yeah, I had so much fun when I first read this book. I read it physically, but I think I'm gonna do the audio next time I read it, which is going to be very soon, because the audio person is Adrienne King, who was the OG Friday the 13th girl. So I'm super excited to reread this one, perhaps for Halloweekend. We shall see. So there are some spooky book recommendations. Let me know your spooky book recommendations down below. And also I have some a short, I believe, on YouTube, and a Kindle Unlimited recommendation, spooky book recommendation over on my Instagram. So I will leave those links down below so you can check those out. And I hope you guys have a fantastic day and an amazingly epic spooky season. Bye!